There we are. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Cordova College Corner. I'm your host, Davis Cordova, and I'm joined by two of the main people that join me on Saturday mornings because no one else wants to wake up at 10 o'clock to speak college basketball with me. But we got Jet Folk from Frostbite Sports. Jet, how you doing today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Next, we got Kenny Cotterell from the Shooter Shoot Basketball Podcast. Kenny, I know you're doing well because Duke plays today, but how you doing?
I'm doing well. As you notice, I'm not wearing the Duke sweater today. I wore the Lakers one for their comeback last night. But yeah, Duke's got NC State today. It's going to be a tough game for them. Excited for episode 3. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, who does Duke play today?
NC State, they're playing them on the road for whatever reason. I think they're favored by 3. I don't get it. We'll see if they snap the slide today.
Give me NC State. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I put down the NC State spread.
I mean, like NC State, they're at home, you said, right?
Yeah, and NC State's not even that good of a team this year, so it really goes to show how far Duke has fallen.
Neither is Notre Dame, but y'all lost to them at home, right?
Yeah, we did. That was a tough game this week. No defense played on either side.
Missing the crazies, bro.
Yeah,
the Camden Crazies. All right, well, let's jump right into things. We got some stuff headed out for you guys from the tourney. That's basically what this episode is about. Also, today at 11:30, the committee is actually dropping the top 16 teams right now. Like, if the tournament started today, those are the top 4 seeds in the tournament. So go check that out. I'll probably be releasing them on my Twitter page today, so go check that out as well. Let's start with our bubble watch. So we're going to go through 5 teams who are on the bubble according to Joe Lunardi, Andy Katz. We're going to go through 5 of the bubble teams who I thought have a 50-50 shot at making the tournament. They just need a better resume. Let's start with one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, like defense-wise. Maryland sitting at 10-10. Big Ten. Kenny, what does Maryland have to do to get in the tournament?
So, I mean, Maryland overall, in conference play, they've been really poor. They're only 4-9. That being said, 3 of those wins are against Wisconsin, Illinois, and Purdue. They've got a bunch of easy games coming up. I know Penn State and Michigan State are kind of the 2 tougher ones, but as far as I know, they've got Nebraska twice. You have to win both of those. If you lose to Nebraska, you might as well pack up and head home. They almost beat Illinois last night, funny enough, but Illinois was able to pull it out in OT. But I think, honestly, they can afford to lose probably one more game and then probably lose in their conference tournament. If they're sitting on 12 losses, then the committee will look at Wisconsin and Illinois in particular as their 2 really big wins because those teams have been really solid this year. So I think ultimately they have to beat these teams that are beneath them coming down the stretch, because if you lose games like that, the committee's not going to be looking at you if you've got 13 losses.
Yeah. Jet, what do you think about Maryland?
I think Kenny's spot on with the Nebraska take. That's a team that you got to beat twice and probably convincingly. You also probably have to take care of Northwestern, Penn State. And then at that point, let's say that they were capable of doing these things. You got to win 1, maybe 2 of the 3 remaining games out of Minnesota, Rutgers, and Michigan State, which I think is pretty realistic. I think you can win one of those games. So I think Maryland's probably out of the 5 teams here got like the second best chance to get in.
Yeah, that's very doable. I think they could win all 3 of those games. Do you know if they're on the road or at home?
No, I didn't write that down, but
okay,
big games nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. Let's stay in the Big Ten, and we'll go to the Nittany Lions of Penn State. Jet, I'll start with you again. What does Penn State have to do? Because they're sitting at a under 500% win-loss rate. What do they have to do? I mean, I know they beat Michigan earlier in the season, but what else do they have to do?
It starts with Nebraska and Maryland. Those are obvious wins that you need. From there, I'd say Minnesota's the next closest to a must-win game. After that, you've got to steal at least 2 from Ohio State, Iowa, and Purdue. They need a miracle, really, and I think that they have the lowest chances to get in of all 5.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm going to correct myself. It was not Michigan. Michigan lost to Minnesota. That's their own loss. It was Wisconsin. They beat Wisconsin, and then they played a game 2 days later, and Wisconsin beat them by 20. Kenny, I'll go to you about Penn State. Do they just have to go undefeated to get in? I mean,
Penn State probably has more impressive wins than Maryland, but they've also got way more bad losses. Because if you look at Penn State, like you beat Virginia Tech, I'm not a big believer in them, but they are in the top 25 and have been all year. They beat Wisconsin, they beat Rutgers, all teams ahead of them in the Big Ten. But I mean, when you're sitting on 9 losses, still have to play Ohio State, still have to play Iowa, and then you've got all of these other like mid-tier games. You're talking about Maryland as one. Like, I mean, best case scenario is you walk in with 10 or 11 losses, and then you can show them your resume of having a couple top 25 wins. But I think they can afford to lose one, because I think if you lose to Iowa or you lose to Ohio State, but you beat one of them, then that's going to be enough to get you in. But then you also have to win the rest of those games, the ones that you're talking about, those lowly ones, because a lot of people talk about, well, who did you beat? It also matters a lot who you lost to. And I think when you've got your 4-8 in the conference, you've lost a lot of games.
Yeah, I agree with you right there. I think Penn State basically has to go undefeated. I think they can lose 1, maybe 2, but they also have to make top 4, top 8 in the conference tournament.
I think it is worth noting too that Penn State actually had the hardest schedule in college basketball this year.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'm pretty sure they had a couple transfer outs from last year heading into this year as well. So that didn't help a lot either. So it's surprising that they're on the bubble still. So they're sitting at 7-9. Let's go over to the Big East. We will go with UConn Huskies, sitting at 8-5. They kind of had a COVID pause. Kenny, what do they need to do to get in the tournament?
I mean, they just have to start padding their resume. And as you said, COVID's been really tough for them. When you've only played 13 games so far, that's even less than a team like Duke, who's played 15. Keep in mind, they took off pretty much the month of December. So they've been absolutely ravaged by COVID when you're looking at the Huskies. And the issue for them is they've really only got one notable win. They beat USC on the road early in the year. It was a big statement win for them. But since then, I mean, they've lost some games that they shouldn't have. And coming down the stretch, they've got the opportunity to do so. You know, you've got Villanova, you've got Xavier today, I believe. You've got Seton Hall as well. You got to win in 2 of those, I would think, because when the committee is going to look at, like, say we're talking about Penn State and they're sitting at like let's say hypothetically like a 12-11 record. And then you're looking at UConn, who's played less games, but they've got maybe 7 or 8 losses. It's going to be tough for them to really match up against them due to their strength of schedule. So I think you could afford to lose to Villanova. You probably have to beat Xavier today. You'd have to beat Seton Hall, show that you've got at least 3 quality wins on the year to really show you deserve to get into the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Wasn't that UConn, that USC win, wasn't it at a neutral site?
It might have been neutral. When I looked it up, it said at USC, or gotcha. So it might have been neutral site, but USC gotcha. Was considered the home team in that game.
Gotcha. Jet, what do you think about UConn?
I looked at their schedule, and to me, I see it as you got to win one of Xavier or Villanova. I think you got to avenge that Providence loss. Stick to business, obviously, against Georgetown. You got them twice. And Marquette, which actually Marquette could give them a game, but you got to find a way to win it. And if you have those things hit, I think your season bid could come down to the Seton Hall game. That game could decide which of those 2 teams gets in.
Yeah, for sure. I think Seton Hall right now has a resume to get in. They might be the first four in, like not the first four in, but the next four in.
Like that 11. Yeah.
Yeah, 11, 10, somewhere right there. But I agree with you guys. So let's stay in the Big East. We'll go to let's go to St. John's. 13-8. They have the best record out of any of these teams that we're discussing today. Kenny, why don't you tell us about who they've beaten this year and why the resume is so good?
I mean, what helps them over UConn within the conference is that they've actually played games. They've played 21 so far. As you said, they're 13-8. 7-7 in the conference is a bit underwhelming, but Nova and UConn are both teams that they've beaten, so that's another shot against UConn, is that St. John's beat them. I mean, overall, I could see them affording to lose another game or two. They've still got Nova, still got Seton Hall and their conference tournament. I think if they're rolling into March with 10 losses after the tournament's over, the Big East tournament, they're probably going to get in just because they do have some quality wins on the schedule. But if you go anything past that, I just think the committee is going to say, well, do we take an 11-loss team in the Big East, or are we taking an 11 or 12-loss team in the Big Ten? And I think that's where they're going to lose out, because the Big Ten, all these teams have beaten each other. They've all got quality wins, and that's what could hurt them come the tournament.
Jed, I'll go to you.
With St. John's, I think they've got the best path to get there, because I think you can just clean up DePaul, Providence, Seton Hall, and get in. You could lose to Xavier and Villanova at that point, and I don't think it would really matter. But with having those two games in your back pocket, it's A, an insurance policy, and B, a cherry on top, one way or the other, depending on how those first three games go.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think St. John gets in just because of they have a really good resume. But let's go to the worst conference in college basketball. We'll go to the Pac-12 on the West Coast. Go to Stanford, 12-8. They had a COVID pause, but they still got wins during that COVID pause. Zaire Williams leading the way, and Oscar Da Silva, correct? Yes. Yep. Jet, I'll start with you. Tell me why Stanford is going to be one of the three teams making the tournament from the Pac-12.
So given their schedule, I think that Utah, Washington, and Oregon State have to be games that they circle on their calendar as we need to win these, because if they do so, they can probably afford 2 losses out of Washington State, USC, and Oregon. If it's maybe a 2-1 situation out of those first 3 games, then you're probably looking at having to win 2. I think that they'd have an okay shot against an Oregon or a Washington State. I think they would have a tough matchup against USC. But all in all, I'd say that they're set up pretty well to get in.
Yeah, right now it's USC and UCLA. It's the only 2 teams getting in. And I think they have Stanford on the first 4 out in most of those. So, Kenny, I'll start with you. I mean, I'll go to you. What do they have to do to improve their resume?
Well, I mean, overall, I find it hard to believe that they are first 4 out given the wins they already have. Like, you already talked about UCLA. They beat them. They beat Arizona twice, and they beat Alabama early in the year. Alabama is arguably the best team in the SEC this year. So you've already got quality wins. You still have Oregon and USC, as you guys talked about. And, I mean, what hurts them is some of these losses that they've picked up in Pac-12 play. I think the weak conference hurts them. If they do hit 10 losses, they're probably going to be out, just because, as we talked about earlier, Big East, if they've got 10 losses, those teams are probably getting in. And if Big Ten has 11 or 12, those teams might even get in. So I think it hurts Stanford that they're already on 8 losses. Obviously, things can change. You win your conference tournament, you get the automatic bid anyways. I don't see that happening for this team. But if they do beat Oregon or USC, and then you maybe make a bit of a run, you go to even the Pac-12 championship game, then that might be enough to get you into the tournament.
All right. Well, let's do some hypotheticals. I know I didn't tell you all this because I wanted your initial reaction. Stanford and UConn, who's getting in at the end of the season?
Stanford.
I'll go Stanford as well.
Okay. Stanford or St. John's?
St. John's.
St. John's.
Okay. Penn State or Maryland?
Maryland.
Man. Yeah, I have to go Maryland because I don't see Penn State beating OSU or Iowa.
And we'll go Maryland and UConn.
Maryland.
Maryland.
All right. Well, there's our bubble watch.
I don't think that you can play 13 games so far and get into the tournament. I just think it's too hard.
Yeah, the way I look at UConn and Penn State, I think that they both need to just go on an absolute tear to end the season or they're in trouble.
For sure. Let's move on. That's our bubble watch, by the way. We'll have that coming probably every 2 episodes leading up to the tournament, and probably every episode in the next 3 weeks. But we'll go to Baylor and Gonzaga, or the field in the tournament. Kenny, I'll start with you. So here's a hypothetical. Would you rather take Baylor and Gonzaga, one of them two, to win the tournament, or the field?
That's so tough because I think truly the NCAA tournament is the most random tournament in the world. It's the hardest to win. You get one team on a hot shooting night and suddenly you're out. It doesn't matter what your record is. We've seen teams go undefeated and head into the tournament and lose. We saw it with Wichita State a number of years ago. We saw it with Kentucky with Karl Anthony Towns' team. They lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four. But I have to take the field because of that. It's not that I don't believe in Baylor and Gonzaga. Just if I had a choice between 2 undefeated teams and the rest of college basketball, I think you could easily run into an Iowa and you get Garza going for like a 35-point night and suddenly you're heading home. Or you run into a Wisconsin who just has a good all-around team performance. You've still got Michigan and Ohio State, 2 teams in the Big Ten that have pretty much rolled over that conference. And that's been the best conference in college basketball as far as, the top end teams, I would say. So overall for me, I have to take the field. It's not that I don't think if I had to pick someone to win the tournament, I'd be picking Gonzaga. But Gonzaga's also never won an NCAA championship. We've seen them go to the finals and lose to UNC. Baylor, as far as I know, they haven't won one in a very long time, if at all. So you're asking me to take 2 teams with 0 championship experience of winning that game. So I got to take the field.
Yeah, and that's why this question is so tough, is because, they're the 2 best teams in college basketball. But do they have the experience? I mean, Scott Drew and Mark Few, they're one of the 2 best coaches, but have they raised a banner? No, they haven't. Jet, I'll go to you. What do you think about this?
Now, to start this, I want to say that if I see Gonzaga or Baylor win, I'm not going to be shocked. But in saying that, I am going to take the field, and there's a couple reasons for that. Starts off with, you've got a team like Iowa, best offense. You've got a team like Alabama, best defense. Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, Purdue, Illinois all had like the top 10 to 15 schedules in the league. You got Virginia, Villanova, Wisconsin that are all at a turtle tempo that if you end up playing their game, you're already screwed. You got Belmont and Xavier who are shooting the ball just as well as you do. You've got teams that are setting up assists, like at a staggering college pace. It's ridiculous to think about all these different ways that teams can beat you. And all it takes is one chance to do so. 1 game knockouts, anything's possible. And that's why I have to take the field.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you guys a question. When was the last time Baylor made the Final Four?
Oh, jeez.
It had to have been early 2000s, if at all. I don't know if they ever even have, to be honest.
Just give me a year. Just guess a year.
2001.
They have.
99.
1950. 1950.
Okay, so I was off by just half a century. That was close.
Yeah, I mean, can you tell me the last time they made the Elite Eight?
Oh man, was it?
I'm going to say 99.
2012. They've actually made the Elite Eight 2 times the past 10 years. 2010, 2012. They never got to the next step. which that's why I'm taking the
Tough.
field, is because Baylor and Gonzaga, they don't have any experience going to these games.
One team I didn't even say that Jet mentioned was Villanova. If you looked at the start of the year, Villanova was, for some people, the second best team in the country. For some people, they were the third. Just because they've lost a game or two doesn't mean that if these teams met up in like an Elite Eight matchup or a Final Four matchup, the Villanova couldn't just go out and beat them. Jay Wright has won 2 national championships in the last 5 years. So that's a team that has championship experience and they know what it takes to get it done. So if you go up against teams like that, I would take the experience factor. And don't get me wrong, Gonzaga and Baylor are unreal. Baylor's trio of players and Gonzaga's just all around roster that they have, it's incredible. But until you raise the banner, I have to take the field on that.
Yeah. I know people will think, hey, if we're talking just experience, then Coach K and Roy Williams, they're going to take their team to the championship if they get in.
ACC
that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Not how it works.
Well, although, if I'm other teams, I wouldn't want to see them in the tournament.
Yeah.
No,
for sure.
And I will say this much too. So I talked about that Kentucky team. Keep in mind the team that won that year was Duke, and they had just as much talent as Kentucky. They were sitting on 4 losses and ended up winning it all. In Kentucky, all that it took was that one game against Wisconsin, and they were heading home. And that was a team that was loaded with NBA talent. Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker were on that team, and they ultimately couldn't get it done. So I won't be that surprised if either of these teams win, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they lost out in the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 or something. It's just the way that the college tournament works.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting who that 8-9 seed is, because over the years, the 8-9 seeds, they've gotten stronger and stronger every year.
Yep.
I mean, if you get caught with a team like Arkansas or even Oklahoma State, I don't want to pat my own back here, but if Oklahoma State can catch an Iowa or Villanova off guard, they can make the Sweet 16. I mean, it's
and
possible.
With Cade Cunningham, I don't think that's crazy at all. If Cade Cunningham goes up against one of those teams, he could win a game on his own. He's the best player heading into the NBA draft. There's no reason that he couldn't have a 35-point, 40-point day against one of those teams. We saw Steph Curry do it in the tournament. He eliminated a lot of good teams on his own. There's no reason that Cade couldn't do that for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and I've
been saying all year about Oklahoma State. They seem like a team that could literally beat anybody, but they also have this curse of they could potentially lose to anybody, and I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, thanks for putting out in the open when we played Kansas State today.
I looked at that one too, and I was actually kind of worried about it, not because Kansas State's any good, but I was like, that's just such a game that you overlook.
Yeah, if they lose, it's my fault because I'm not there. That would be the only reason why they lose that. Question: do you guys think we see a 15 seed or a 16 seed upset this year?
I could see a 15. I really could.
I want to see who the twos are first.
If I'm thinking about twos, which it could be Houston, that kind of concerns me. If you have Houston as a 2 seed,
yeah, Houston or Iowa. I think Iowa.
Garza has an off day and suddenly they're heading home the first day. I don't think that's crazy at all to say that could happen. Yeah, or if you get a Virginia, Virginia could win the ACC tournament. They could get the 2 seed and then suddenly the offense goes cold and they get a hot shooting team and they're heading home as well. So.
Yeah.
I agree there that the 15's very, very possible. And it's just getting more possible every year.
I think of Iowa as the team like Michigan State when they had Miles Bridges. They lost as a 2 seed. Actually, no, it was Denzel Valentine, not Miles Bridges.
Denzel Valentine's year, yeah.
It was that year they lost 2 seed. Yep. Yeah, I remember that game. I watched that and I was just like, what's going on? Here's an episode idea. We should go through the top 10 upsets in the first round. We'll go through that next week. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
UMBC.
UMBC. Yes. All right. Let's move on to our daily pick'em or our weekly pick'em, actually. But first, I'm going to show you guys the 10 picks for today. I actually got 10. It's on the Twitter page now. Here you go. Jet and Kenny, what do you guys think about this card?
Indiana, I'm a little bit weary of, but I think 6 is still a stiff spread. TCU, yeah, I could see that. They've played a lot of teams close. I like West Virginia. Not that sold on Utah personally. Kansas beat them down.
I really do like Utah there because last few games they've just stayed in the game. I think it was against Colorado. They were down by 20 with 5 minutes left, and they won the game by 5.
That is true. They have won 3 in a row coming in, so it is a game to keep an eye on for sure. I like the Auburn money line. I think that's a really good one.
That is the best pick on here is the Auburn money line, plus 135. They play Kentucky, who is just a bad team. I mean, I know people don't want to hear that,
being favored,
but they're a bad team. Everyone should know that they're a bad team. Jet, what do you think about this? What's your favorite one on here?
I've got 3. I really like the West Virginia. I really like Auburn, and I really like Oklahoma State.
Wow.
If Oklahoma State can't cover that today, I'd be very surprised.
Me too. I would be very surprised.
And I like Arkansas too. Arkansas is an underrated team in the SEC.
I've
got Arkansas money line.
Ooh,
I really love this Arkansas team. I watched them in person. They got a 7'2" center. He's a string bean. He can shoot the ball from the 3 line.
So is he anything like Poku or what?
He looks like
he's
Poku.
Probably better already.
His last name's Vanover. If you want to go look him up, it's Vanover.
I'm also not that sold on Missouri. I think it's really weird that Missouri ended up at like 10, and now they showed it when they lost to Ole Miss by 21.
Because they beat Alabama. Joe Lunardi actually had Alabama as a top seed, as a number 1 seed heading into that game, and Missouri beat them.
But I don't know, before that they beat TCU and Kentucky, both teams that are like meh. Like, good for you. You should win those games.
Then they beat TCU in overtime by like 5. It was like 102 to like 97. Like
that Ole Miss loss, even if they win today against Arkansas, they should plummet just because you lost by 21.
Yeah, I took Missouri -5.
I know Ole Miss is only 11-8, but
still, that's a game that not only were you supposed to win, like you were projected to beat the shit out of them.
Yeah,
Ole Miss is actually rising in the bubble watch, and they have a shot to make the tournament. They can make a huge run in the SEC because the SEC is not that good, honestly. But let's move on to our pick'em. We will go. Actually, first, Kenny, why don't you tell them where the episode is sponsored by?
Today's episode is sponsored by Thrive Fantasy, the newest fantasy game that takes the hours of work out of the equation and takes that diamond out of the rough out of the equation as well. It's just best on best prop bets, everything you need, contests, a whole bunch of stuff. They've now switched also to doing, you can take prop lines for halves, not just the full game. So neat little feature that they've added. And just deposit up to $50 and get it matched by entering the code BCMG at sign up in all caps. That's code BCMG.
What's the code?
BCMG.
It's free money.
Yeah.
Free money, people.
All right, let's go to our weekly pick'em. We got Oklahoma at West Virginia coming up here in 15 minutes. West Virginia, 2.5 favorites. Kenny, I'll start with you.
Sorry, I missed it. What was our game? I went full. Oh, West Virginia. Yeah, I'm going to take West Virginia in this one. I think they're really starting to find their rhythm. They've won 3 in a row. Oklahoma's also just 2-4 on the road, so they're not a great road team. Give me Huggins at home. I want to get that stupid West Virginia logo out of my picture.
Yeah, speaking of, are you guys going to do a Avi bet?
We'll find one. We'll find one today.
Kenny's 0-2 now on Avatar Bets.
I actually haven't seen my logo on there in the month of February.
I know. Paul is 1-1, and I am 2-0. So, yeah, that's the only thing I'm undefeated. Actually, I'm undefeated in NHL picks too. So
1-0 on NHL picks. Davis,
1-0.
Absolute weapon at NHL.
I took the Flyers the third game of the season. I was like, "Yo, I'm not taking NHL again."
Hell yeah.
Jed, I'll go to you.
I think this is my third straight time saying it. West Virginia minus 2.5. They strung together a pair of really nice wins back to back. You got Kansas and Texas Tech there. And they're obviously going to look to avenge that 4-point loss that they had at the hands of Oklahoma when they went there. And that's quite a while ago. They're playing a lot better now. So, I like West Virginia in this one.
Yeah, that was back in January because West Virginia actually just stayed in Oklahoma and came here and beat us. So it was sad. A turnaround. Yeah, sad. But I'm taking West Virginia minus 2.5. You saw on the card. I don't really think West Virginia struggles here. I think Oklahoma does just because they haven't played in a week. But I'm taking West Virginia to win and cover. Next we're going to the Big Ten. Indiana against Ohio State. I'll start with you, Jet.
Well, going against the grain on you on this one. I'm going to Ohio State. They've been an absolute beast at home. They're on a heater, and I like a minus 6.5.
Kenny?
You've got Ohio State, who's the 12th ranked offensive rating in the country, going up the 156th rating for Indiana. Give me Ohio State to win at home. Big.
Taking Indiana plus 6.5, but Ohio State's winning this. I think Indiana keeps it close. They've been on a hot streak lately. Race Thompson, Tracy Jackson Davis. They've been leading this team to the tournament now. They should be in the tournament if it ended today. Give me Indiana plus 6.5, but Ohio State wins. Next, we got a almost undefeated matchup, but they've lost a couple games. Loyola Chicago minus 4.5 at Drake. First, before we make our picks, Kenny, are you surprised Loyola Chicago's favored that high?
A little bit. I think a lot of people are looking at that loss that Drake took the other day. And I mean, Drake, like, nothing about them like really stands out to me. I think Loyola played probably a tougher non-conference schedule, which is why they have more losses than this team. But considering this is going to be a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday games, I think they're going to split it. And I think that's probably best case scenario for these teams because then they can show a quality win each, honestly. Like, you can be like, yeah, well, we beat Drake. And they can be like, well, we beat Chicago. Like, I don't know. Loyola shoots the third best percentage in the NCAA and Drake shoots the 10th. So I expect this game to be fairly high scoring. I would say Loyola is probably going to win just because they distribute a little bit better. So I'll take Loyola to win today, but then I'll take Drake to beat them on the turnaround tomorrow.
Jet?
For me, it just feels like Drake had one hiccup and the world went crazy. I mean, you're not going to be perfect every single night, and it is what it is. Outside of that, they've dashed everyone else's hopes. So I'm going to take Drake money line both nights.
Wow. Okay. Question before I make my pick. Do you think if Drake wins today, the spread flip-flops to Drake's favor?
I don't think it'll flip-flop, but I think you'll see it drop to probably like minus 2.5 or minus 1.5 tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I'm taking Loyola Chicago today, and I'm taking Drake tomorrow, just because like these two teams are just going to battle each other. I mean, I didn't really want to make my pick for tomorrow until I see what happens today. And honestly, I didn't want to make a pick on this game because these two teams, they could do anything. Like, I can't even think of like how this game's going to go. Like, I could think of every single game on this list. You can kind of get a sense of how it's going to go. But no one's watched Loyola Chicago. I've only watched Drake one time. I don't know how this game's going to go. I don't know how they shoot the ball. I don't know their field goal percentage. I don't know how they play defense. But I'm going to take Loyola Chicago, the ranked team, against Drake. So
I got a question for you guys. So Loyola's 17-3, Drake's 19-1. if Loyola wins both, we're looking at 19-3 for both of these teams. Only one of them can win the conference, but could you see both of these teams realistically getting into March Madness this year, or do you think it's going to be just, well, they're in a garbage conference, so just because they only have like 3 or 4 losses doesn't mean they get in? Because the committee seems to do that quite frequently, where they'll pass over like the team that's 26-4 for a team like some of those teams that we talked about earlier.
Or for Duke. Honestly, I think this year, I think both teams have a good resume to get in. Drake is actually sitting on the 11 seed, actually, and Loyola Chicago is actually in the top 25. So I think they're about a 9 or an 8 seed, somewhere around there. So I think if they both can level these 2 games out and they go undefeated all the way and meet in the conference tournament at the end, I think they both get in.
Do you think they have to get to the conference tournament final against each other?
Yes. I mean, they're the top 2 teams, so they have to make it. And let's say Loyola Chicago sweeps them this week, and Drake beats them in the tournament. Drake gets the higher seed, but that would make more sense for the tournament, for the conference, to get 2 teams in.
Yeah, it's tough because I think that these are both teams that should be in the tournament, but the reality is it just does not work that way. So as much as I want to say that they could both get in, I don't think they will.
Yeah, I mean, if Drake wins both and that drops Loyola to 5 losses, then they have to win their conference tournament, I would think.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the SEC. Got Tennessee -3.5 at Louisiana State. Jed, I'll start with you.
Sorry, which game we going here?
Tennessee LSU.
It's right there.
Tennessee LSU. Didn't take notes for this one because you didn't mention it, but I'm going to take Tennessee -3. I don't think that they'll have very much problem with LSU.
I think I mentioned it. It's in the group chat. You want to make an Avy bet? You want to make an Avy bet? It's in the group chat.
No.
Katie, I'll go to you.
I don't know. Like, every time I think Tennessee's a good team, they drop a game. And I've started to think that Tennessee's a good team. So I'm going LSU today just to ride out the trend. LSU does shoot it better. They also rebound better. This spells upset to me in the SEC, so I'm going to take LSU.
Yep, I'm also taking LSU. I don't really like this Tennessee team. I like Rick Barnes, but I don't like this Tennessee team. They make so many mistakes. But LSU, they can actually score the ball a lot. That's why I'm taking LSU +3 today. Next, we're going to stay in the SEC. We got Georgia at Alabama. I didn't know the spread was this high, but it's 13-point spread for Alabama. It's at home. Kenny, I'll start with you.
I really like Bama to win this game. It's mostly just because Georgia turns it over like an insane amount. They turn it over 17 times a game. They also don't shoot the 3 well enough to beat Bama. I think that's the key to beating them, is that you can match them on the perimeter. And just because they can't do that, I'm going to take Bama to win and cover that spread.
Jet?
I like Bama for essentially all the same reasons. I just think that's a lot of points. I've gone back and forth on it a ton. I am for sure taking Alabama to win. I just don't think they'll cover. I don't know that anyone plays to win by 13. That's tough.
It's tough because you basically have to be up 20, and then your starters sit, and then you have to hope that your bench guys don't give up like a 5-0 run or something late, or 8-0 run to spoil it.
Yeah, I'm taking Alabama to cover this. They can shoot so many threes. They can make so much. I think they're one of the best teams when it comes to shooting. They do have their off nights, though. We saw that against Missouri. But I think Alabama covers this by at least 20. I think they win by 20 or more. We'll stay in the SEC. We'll go Arkansas at Missouri, -3 for Missouri. This is one of my upset picks. Kenny, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I really want to take Arkansas here, but Missouri's 8-1 at home, and Arkansas is only 3-4 on the road. I just think that Arkansas is a completely different team away from home. which is why I'm going to take Missouri to win this game.
Jep?
Well, in the last 5 games, Missouri's lost to Auburn. They barely squeaked by TCU and Kentucky. They did beat Bama, but it was a really low-scoring, ugly affair of a game. And then they got blown out by Ole Miss. So, I don't know. I just feel like Arkansas is coming in way hotter. So, I think I'm going to go them money line.
Totally agree with you. Arkansas, one of the best teams that are underrated. I watched them in person when they came to Stillwater. They kept it really close. Cade Cunningham hit a fadeaway jump shot to seal the game. But I'm going to stay with Arkansas here, +3, just because Missouri, as you said, I think they're overrated. They're one of the most overrated teams in the country. And Arkansas is one of the most underrated teams in the country. So give me Arkansas to win this. All right, let's go to the Big East. Villanova, this is actually a top 25 matchup. Villanova, 2.5 favorites on the road in Omaha against Creighton. Jet, I'll start with you.
I like Nova in this one. I don't think that they're going to have any problem covering this. I think Creighton gets talked a little bit too highly of, and I think Nova is just kind of going under the radar, which is exactly where they want to be.
Kenny, I'll go to you.
I'm probably going to roll with Nova here. Offensively, they're just so strong. And I think what helps them the most is that they take care of the ball. They're the best in the NCAA. They only turn it over 9 times a game, which I think is what you need going into a road game with a team like Creighton, is you can't turn the ball over and really give them the momentum. So I'll take Nova to win this one today.
Yep, I'm also taking Nova. I think Creighton is also one of those overrated teams. I mean, not as much as Missouri, but I think they're overrated. And Villanova is one of the top 4 teams. I think they get a top seed in the end because Michigan and Ohio State, they have to play each other. So I'm going to take Villanova at 2.5. Let's go to Kenny's favorite team, North Carolina at Virginia. Is that spread? That spread's not right.
Yeah, Virginia would be the -6, but I mean, in this game, it's just too contrasting.
Yep.
Virginia, who does not like Virginia, their pace of play is so slow.
All right. Well, you are going to have to. Actually, I'll go to you, Jet. I'll start with you. I'll start with you.
All right. Well, Virginia puts the clamps on with the best of them, obviously, and especially at home. And for that reason alone, I'm going to take Virginia to cover, not necessarily because they can score a ton, but because I think they can hold North Carolina from scoring.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Virginia and to cover this. North Carolina is also one of the overrated teams just because they're blue blood. It goes for Duke, Kentucky, Michigan State, Kansas. Well, yeah. But Virginia is going to cover this, and I think by 10 or more. I don't think UNC's that good of a team, but they do make the tournament still. We'll go to one of the late games tonight. Southern Cal at Washington State. Washington State actually coming off a 20-point win against UCLA. I'll start with you, Jet, because Kenny's just frozen. Well, there you go. Southern Cal -8. What do you got?
Yeah, I like USC in this one. USC's already defeated them by 8 this season, and they've been playing even better basketball since then. So, yeah, I'm all over that -8.
Yeah, me too. Well, actually, no, I'm not. Thinking about it, I'm going to take Washington State +8, but Southern Cal to win. I think Washington State keeps it close. I only say that because they're at home, as we have a special guest joining us. Not really special, but he should pop up anytime now. There he is.
Whoa. Oh, he just had to get rid of the hood. Now we're good.
Yeah. It was
Wow.
the bad connection was the Lakers hoodie and the Red Sox cap. That's what it was. Or is he frozen? He's frozen again. Never mind. I spoke too soon. Oh, there he is.
Okay, am I back? Am I back? Okay, give me UNC to win. Give me USC to win. Give me the next game.
Nope.
Give me
Nope.
Michigan to win.
Nope.
And at shooters_pod.
I don't think they heard.
Nailed it.
Okay. Well, okay, we'll go to our Sunday game matchup as it hit 11 o'clock. Michigan at Wisconsin. Who do you got?
Yeah, so we don't have a spread on this one yet, but Michigan's already mopped the floor with these guys once, so I'd probably take Michigan regardless of the spread come tomorrow.
That's where you go wrong, Jet. Michigan hasn't played in 3 weeks. Wisconsin's going to win this game at home just because Michigan hasn't played. I mean, they really haven't.
Well, all that tells me is Michigan's had 3 weeks to prepare for them.
No, they haven't. They haven't been able to practice for 2 weeks. So
they're just sitting at home not doing nothing?
They've only had a week of practice, is what I'm saying.
Mental preparation, brother. It's a thing.
I'm taking
Ask Jordan.
Wisconsin. All right, that wraps up our show. Jet, why don't you tell them where they can find you?
I'm on Twitter at Frostbite Pod. You can find us on Facebook as well. Go send us a like if you could. And Instagram at Frostbite_sports_podcast.
Yeah, and Kenny, why don't you tell them where you're at? Shout out, kid. Thanks for coming on. I know he's watching because he's in the chat. There you go.
Technical difficulties.
There he is. And I'm your host, Davis Cordova. Go find me at @thedog_1123. And you can follow this Twitter account for this show at _, not underscore, but at the CCC show on Twitter for daily picks. And that wraps up our show, guys. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you guys next week.